Yes, hi everyone, I'm Anita Goa. Today's tutorial Tuesday is going to be about the breath. And the breath is oftentimes something we don't really think about unless we come to yoga and we're reminded constantly about inhaling and exhaling. And the reason we don't really think about the breath is because the breath is an automatic process that happens in the body, whether we think about it or not, for as long as we're alive. So here we come to yoga and we're reminded to breathe in and breathe out. And oftentimes what happens is that we get a little bit confused and we find it hard to synchronize the breath together with the movements that we make. And we oftentimes also start to realize that we're not breathing as properly as we could. Pranayama, which is breathing. So basically if you take that word and you split it up in prana and ayama. Prana means energy and ayama means to stretch. So the idea in yoga and breathing is that we want to try to stretch our breath. We want to inhale as fully as we can, and we want to exhale as completely as we can. My first teacher, Vero Bender-Birch, always talked about energy management when it came to this, that the better we breathe and the more deeper we breathe, the better we manage our energy. I want to make sure that you're not breathing backwards. So if you're breathing backwards, this is what happens. You're inhaling, your navel goes in. And you exhale, your navel goes out, your belly goes out. So if you're backwards breathing, you're inhaling, navel goes in, and then you're exhaling, navel goes out. This is not a way that you want to breathe. What you want to make sure of is that you're breathing in the right way, meaning that when you're inhaling, your belly, your navel goes out, and then when you're exhaling, your navel goes in. All right? So you inhale, navel goes out, and then you exhale, navel goes in. Oftentimes when I teach this, this completely confuses everybody, but this is the way that we start off breathing when we're born. So somewhere along the way, it gets all screwed up. We get a hit here, a hit there, a knock there, and our breathing gets all messed up. So thank God you're here, and you now can reverse it. So make sure you do that. Now you're in that belly breathing. So you're allowing the belly to expand, and there's movement in the belly. This is very good for when you're resting in Shavasana, you know, when you're sitting in a chair and just reading a book, or you're watching TV, or any position that you put yourself in where you don't need too much pelvic stability or lower back support. So the next one is diaphragmatic breathing. And the whole thing is now, regardless of doing belly breathing or diaphragmatic breathing, we're still breathing into our lungs, and we're using our lungs, and we're trying to expand and increase our lung capacity. So our diaphragm is our breathing muscle, and it lies right underneath the heart, and you can see that here in the diagram that I'm showing you. So if you were to be breathing in reverse, it would be extremely taxing on your heart. But when you're breathing properly, it's actually a really nice massage for the heart. So you're giving your heart muscle a little bit of a break, and it doesn't have to work as hard for you as it would have if you're not breathing properly. All right? So when you're diaphragmatically breathing, there's a little bit more stillness in the lower belly. So you need to draw the navel in a little bit more. Then place your hands on your rib cage. And as you inhale, you want to draw the breath into the ribs. So you feel that your rib cage is expanding against your hands. And then you're exhaling, and your rib cage is going back to normal. All the while, you're keeping your mouth closed, and you're inhaling through your nose. And then you're exhaling through your nose. Or feel free in the beginning if you need to exhale through the mouth, but always make sure that you're inhaling through your nose. This diaphragmatic breath is great to use in your yoga practice. Oftentimes when you get into twists and into side lateral bends, even back bends and forward bends, you need a little bit more pelvic stability, which we'll go through tomorrow. In order to support your lower back and to support your organs. And then you have all the space up here in the rib cage to breathe. To really get into the breath and get into energy management, we have Ujjayi breathing. And this is a wonderful technique to help you really elongate your breaths. So you can start off, it's a breath with sound, and it's oftentimes referred to as Darth Vader breathing. Start off with your mouth open and do like this. Now that's a very wide open, expansive breath. You wouldn't want to breathe like that because that would just give your energy away. You want to make sure that your mouth is closed, but when you're inhaling with sound like that and exhaling with sound like that, you have to slightly contract your throat muscles in order for this to happen. So it goes like this. Without pursing your lips together, just keep them closed, and then inhale and exhale. All right, so just practice it. When you start to practice the Ujjayi breathing, don't force the breath. Just think of yourself as breathing through a straw. It shouldn't be like this. All right, it should just be really calm, but you hear that the breath has a sound attached to it. It was really funny. I had a student many years ago that I taught this to, and he said, I was commuting to work and I thought that I would just be practicing my Ujjayi breath on the train, and here I was breathing and everyone was looking really strangely at me. And I asked him, so how were you breathing? And he was breathing exactly like that, like really forceful. And I told him, no wonder people were looking strangely at you, because that's a little bit too much. So the intention is really good. Sometimes we do it a little bit too much, so think about energy management. On a personal note, when I first started a yoga practice, I noticed that I was breathing in reverse. And it really shocked me because I was teaching about 20 aerobics classes at the time. I would run around Central Park a couple of times a week and do some treadmill workouts. Yes, I was a complete cardio junkie. And here I was running and running and running and doing lots of cardio and breathing in reverse. And how taxing was that on my heart? And no wonder I was feeling exhausted. So it was a huge revelation for me to learn about the breath and then turn it around. And it is completely possible to turn it around. And once you do, you will experience life in a completely different way. You will experience everything that you do in a completely different way. I hope that this is helpful. Just keep practicing. This is just a short video on breath. There's so much to cover, and I'm sure that we'll be talking about this a little bit later as well. Many, many, many more times. Namaste. Have a beautiful day. Breathe and believe.